Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm here. The videos are still daily at the moment. I hope to maintain this this thing over this next month. Um, I'm taking a little break again from my writing to talk to you guys about some books, and I'm so very happy to come to you with my Victober wrap up. Part one, part two will be tomorrow. I have here today two books that I finished in October and two books that I wasn't able to, but that thankfully I have the opportunity to read this month for Nonfiction November, to finish in Nonfiction November. Hopefully, I've prioritized a couple of other books, which you guys saw on yesterday's video. So, let's get started. First of all, I have Joseph Sheridan LeFanu's Carmilla. This is a wonderful, wonderful monster story. It is about a vampire. Yes, Carmilla is a vampire. Again, as I said, I think in yesterday's video or the video from the day before, it is not spoiling anything to tell you that she is a vampire. In the same way that it is not spoiling anything to tell anyone that Dracula is a vampire if they have never read the book or seen any of the movies. The story, Carmilla, is about the corruption of innocence. It is about the monster that can be beautiful, that can be alluring, but that is always nonetheless dangerous. It is a book about lust, a book about the difference between lust and love. It's a very good book, very tiny. It's a very, very small little book, but it's so wonderfully finished, polished, complete, that it really did not need to be longer, and it didn't need to be shorter. LeFanu he did everything right with this thing. It's entertaining, it's very, like Carmilla herself, it's very charming, very alluring, rapturous. I enjoyed this so very, very, very much. Pick it up if you have not read it. You can find it on Project Gutenberg for free, so just go ahead, give it a read. And then George Bernard Shaw's The Perfect Wagnerite. I finished this book a couple of weeks ago, I think now, and but still, just about every detail is fresh for me, and I'm going to reread this very, very soon. I don't know if I'm going to be able to reread it this month. As I said, I've prioritized. I think it's about 5 other books for this month. You saw those. And this is just, I had to get it because I am absolutely in love with Wagner's The Ring of the Nibelung, a 4-opera cycle that is usually played in 4 nights at any time that what they like to call a Wagner festival is put on at any one of the opera houses that do this sort of thing, including Bayreuth, the Bayreuth Festival House, which is basically the home of all things Wagner. He designed that theater and premiered a couple of his own works there. So this is a very important opera cycle. There's a lot to it. It revolutionized musical structure. It did a lot. I'm happy to say those kinds of things, but really what interests me about it is its wonderful, wonderful, and powerful way of telling the stories, multiple stories of legend, and kind of reinventing, restructuring those stories to fit the audience that Wagner wrote the opera cycle for. And George Bernard Shaw here tells us exactly how significant that opera cycle is to everybody across time. And this just, I don't think this is ever going to get old. I think that this is going to be, it is a universal book. I think it will be timeless. I think it has this wonderful way. George Bernard Shaw has a wonderful way of blending everything: social criticism, political criticism, literary criticism, music criticism, everything, all together to show us how everything in our lives, everything we enjoy, everything that entertains us, everything that instructs us, how does it all fit together? He tells us that. He shows us how. and in an extremely, extremely funny, um, insightful, very, just in all ways, pretty much. He's almost like reading or listening to, it's as if you're talking to an extremely, extremely erudite and very eloquent friend who just, he is unable to stop talking to you for the span of the book about Wagner's music and about what it means. And he talks incessantly about the attitudes of his time, the atmosphere, artistic, political, and social, of his time. And I find it completely relevant to now. If I were to recommend a book for everybody to read right now, this this is definitely that book. So if you have not read it, do pick it up. It too is a short little thing. I mean, it's and the print is larger. It is larger than Carmilla's print. So it definitely, I mean, it's a quick read, and it's not intimidating in the least. I know it discusses an opera and all of that, and to people who are not really into classical music or whatnot, it can seem either intimidating or, at first glance, maybe a little boring. But no, this is anything but either one of those. It's utterly engaging. Do pick it up if you can. Then I have, in other criticism, I have Walter Pater, Studies in the History of the Renaissance. This I did not get to finish, but I hope maybe to finish it this November. We will see. This is a really, really amazing collection of essays on artists, primarily painters, who worked during the Renaissance, who helped to revolutionize the way that we look at the human form, the human face, even by the way that we judge the psychology of a person by looking at them. And it's very fascinating. It's utterly fascinating. Walter Pater is best known pretty much universally as the founder of the high aesthetic movement. He influenced Virginia Woolf, James Joyce, Henry James, Oscar Wilde. And he just, from start to finish, he holds your attention. And he makes you feel as if, even though on so many levels he is, as I love these great theorists to be, he is wrong on many levels. But it's okay. You get to sit and discuss with him his ideas, and you don't really want to let him go. You feel lost in a really, really amazing conversation with a very long time friend who just, maybe you haven't met up in a long time and you really want to spend some time together. You just don't want to let them go because you know it'll be a while before the next time you get to talk. That's the feeling that you get from this, and it holds you so very close. And I really, really enjoyed this. And in a strange way, the atmosphere, especially for such a cold season as we find ourselves in, it's very warm. Walter Pater's a very warm critic. So pick this up too. If you've, I would say that perhaps you should have nosed around in a couple of other books on art criticism before getting to this, but if you've never read art criticism in your life, you will still find this engaging. So this is so good. I do. And lastly, I have talked my family's and friends' ears off about this book. This is John Ruskin's Selected Writings, the Oxford World's Classics edition of his Selected Writings. The ones that they collected into this book, all of them, I mean, truly, I have not found one that I cannot say is just brilliant. Ruskin This is one of the best little books of criticism that I have ever read. And yes, it is a little book, again, not intimidating in length, nothing like that. And it's, wow, just the incredible insight of this particular critic. He practiced the very art that he spent his entire career criticizing in the most amazing way possible. This, right here on the front cover, this is a painting by him. You can see that there, see? It's a painting by him, inspired by Turner, probably his favorite painter. And just this, even the colors you see here, and in the distance, way up in the corner, you can see a clearing in the trees. Definitely gives you the atmosphere of his writing. Certainly gives you the atmosphere. There's always a very stately, elegant, colorful, and very solid, finished style and structure to his work, to all of his pieces. But there's also that light coming through in the distance. It's not a harsh light by any means. It's a light coming through of real insight and poetry. Just everything is here that you could possibly want in a critic. Yet it doesn't read, as I have said before on this channel, like the work of a giant. He's very personal, and he's very personable. He is not in any way, he doesn't try to tell you what to think, to tell you what should be or shouldn't be in a work of art, even when he is using those words, this should be this way or that should be this way. You always still get the feeling that he is suggesting something, and he's suggesting something incredibly interesting. But nothing he says should be taken as law. He didn't seem to believe so. He doesn't try to make you believe so. It's really, 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 really good. And you see why. Just one piece. Give one of these pieces a read and you will see why he was the most powerful, most influential, most feared critic of the 19th century. He did it all. Art criticism, literary criticism, social criticism, everything. And wow, just wow. Okay, so that is part one of my Victober wrap-up. As I said, I am now I'm further into NaNoWriMo, and I'm still kind of finding my bearings, I do have to say. I have never written a novel before, so I'm figuring out what my process is. I'm figuring out how I work as a storyteller, as a person who must characterize and who must structure and whatnot, and who must indeed just keep going. I have not reached a point yet at which I think to myself, oh my god, I don't know what to do. Oh my god, I don't know what happens now. How do I go on? I haven't yet reached that point. I hope I don't, but as from what I've seen on AuthorTube and BookTube, it's pretty much inevitable. I will run into that at some point, but I hope that I have prepared enough to get through it, at least a little bit more easily than maybe I could. So thank you guys for being here, and I will be back again tomorrow, again on the NaNoWriMo website. You can find me under W. James Fool. And, well, it's been great talking to you, taking a little break with you. I'm going to get back to my writing now, and I hope that you are all having a wonderful Nonfiction November.